Hey everybody, it's Miss M, and today we're going to learn about how to simplify fractions with roots in them. So here's an example of what this looks like. 3 plus or minus the square root of 48 over 6. Okay, so you can see this is a fraction, and this fraction has a root in it, and the root is on the numerator. So the reason that we're doing this is because our next step is that we're going to learn how to use the quadratic formula. And this is kind of what the quadratic formula looks at one point in it, in the simplification of it. And so we need to know, how do we deal with this type of situation? Well, anytime that we have a number inside of a root, the first thing that we need to do is we need to simplify the root. Okay, so there's a 48 inside of there. We need to simplify this root. And we know that we do that by taking the number and making a prime tree. So we've got 48, which is 4 times 12. Okay, 4 is 2 times 2, and 12 is 2 times 6. 6 is not a prime number, so we need to keep going, and it is 2 times 3. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 prime numbers, and we're going to take those all and write them in order. So we have 3 plus or minus root 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. And I want to make sure that my square root sign is long enough to include all of my numbers. Otherwise, I might get mixed up. And this is all over 6. Okay, now we know what to do here. We circle our pairs of numbers, and we know those are going to go out of the root sign, and the leftover stays inside. So this is the same thing as saying 3 plus or minus 2 times 2 root 3 over 6. Okay, now we need to multiply these two together. 3 plus or minus 2 times 2 is 4 root 3 over 6. Okay, now what we can do is we can draw a triangle around these three numbers, because these are the numbers that we can actually simplify. This number is fully simplified. It's a leftover. We can't do anything else with this number, okay? Don't try to make it a decimal. Don't try to reduce it anymore. Don't try to divide it by anything. This is done. The root 3 is done, so we leave it. These three, we're going to try to see if these numbers have anything in common, or if they have a GCF. These don't, so they have to just kind of stay how they are. So our answer is 3 plus or minus 4 root 3 over 6. And that's the answer. Okay, that is fully simplified. So that's how we would leave it. Let's take a look at another example. Here is another example, and let's switch colors just to be super fun. Okay, we have 4 plus or minus root 8 over 10. Okay, so remember, step one, we have to simplify the root. Here's our root, and then to do that, we make a prime tree. 8 is 2 times 4, and 4 is 2 times 2. Okay, so we have 4 plus or minus root 2 times 2 times 2 over 10. Circle our pairs, and they come out. So this becomes 4 plus or minus 2 root 2 over 10. Okay, now remember, we draw our triangle and we see if we can simplify these numbers. And we can. 4 and 2 and 10 all share the number 2. So we can divide each of these by 2. So we would say, okay, well, 4 divided by 2 is 2, plus or minus 2 divided by 2 is 1. Then we leave the root 2, because remember, that's already simplified. It's done. We leave it how it is. Over 10 divided by 2 is 5. Okay, and while you could leave this like that, it's not really the best way to write it. And some teachers might mark off for this, because whenever you have a 1, remember, we can make that 1 invisible. So we would write it 2 plus or minus root 2. knowing that there's an invisible 1 there, over 5. And that is the answer. Okay, one final example with how to simplify fractions with roots. Okay, let's go back to, let's do another color. All right, we've got 12 plus or minus root 80 over 4. Okay, step 1, simplify the root. So 80, that is 8 times 10. 8 is 2 times 4. 2 is a prime number. 4 is 2 times 2. All right, so I'm done on that side of the tree. Now I need to do this side. 10 is 2 times 5. And that's it. I'm done with simplifying the root. Well, with my prime tree. 12 plus or minus root 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5 over 4. Circle the pairs of numbers. They come out. And I know I'm going to multiply them together, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So I would say 12 plus or minus 2 times 2 is 4, root 5 over 4. Okay, so my root is simplified, but now I can see if these three numbers can be simplified. Remember, draw our triangle. Okay, so 12, 4, and 4 looks to me like they all share the number 4. So that's what I'm going to divide by. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. 4 divided by 4 is 1, root 5, over 4 divided by 4 is 1. So I get 3 plus or minus 1, root 5 over 1. But we know that whenever there's a 1 in the denominator, we don't write it. It's just understood that it's there. And same with this one. So we could rewrite this as 3 plus or minus root 5. And that's it. That's the answer. So that is how you simplify fractions that have roots.